to stand at Dunkirk. The permission slip sat on Danny's desk for 3 days before he could bring himself to pick it up. Soccer tryouts, freshmen and sophomores. His hand hovered over it, then pulled back. Reached again. Stopped. This was stupid. He didn't belong on a soccer team. Guys like him didn't play sports. Guys like him sat in the library during lunch and pretended they had somewhere better to be. Guys like him counted the seconds until they could go home and not have to perform the exhausting theater of being normal. But the one was there, had been there since he'd watched the varsity team play last fall. The way they moved together, a single organism with a shared purpose. The way they belonged to something. The way they mattered. Danny picked up the slip, put it down. His throat felt tight. The problem wasn't that he couldn't run or tackle or control the ball. In Boy Scouts, before he'd aged out last year, he'd always been one of the strongest. Could hike longer, carry more weight, push through when others quit. His body worked fine. It was everything else that didn't work. The locker room talk he wouldn't understand. The jokes that would fly past him while everyone laughed, and he stood there, face burning, trying to figure out what he'd missed. The formations and tactics and calls that would tangle in his head like fishing line, information arriving too slow, always 3 seconds behind everyone else. The inevitable moment when they'd realize he was different. Weird. Slow. His phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Harrison, his old scoutmaster. "How's the first week of school going? Did you sign up for any activities?" Danny stared at the message. Mr. Harrison had been asking about soccer since June, when Danny had mentioned, once, just once, that he'd thought about trying out. Still thinking about it, Danny typed back. The response came immediately. "What's holding you back?" Danny's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "How did you explain that your brain worked like dial-up internet in a world that ran on fiber optic? That group dynamics felt like trying to read a book in a language you'd never studied? That the thought of tryouts made his stomach not so tight he sometimes couldn't eat? Don't know if I'm good enough," he typed finally. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Come by the shop tomorrow after school. Let's talk." Mr. Harrison's hardware store was dim and quiet, smelling of sawdust and metal and something else Danny could never name, but always associated with safety. Mr. Harrison was restocking shelves in the back, organizing screws in a neat rows. He looked up when Danny walked in. There he is. Grab a stool. Danny sat, perched on the edge of an overturned bucket. Mr. Harrison kept working, didn't look directly at him. Danny's shoulders relaxed slightly. Direct eye contact always felt like being pinned under a spotlight. "You know what I remember about you in Scouts?" Mr. Harrison said, still facing the shelves. "That overnight winter campout, February 2 years ago. Temperature dropped to 15 degrees. Half the troop wanted to pack it in, head home early. You know what you did?" Danny shook his head, though Mr. Harrison couldn't see it. "You stayed up most of the night, keeping the fire going, making sure the younger kids stayed warm. You didn't complain, didn't make a big deal of it. You just did what needed doing." He turned then, looked at Danny straight. "That's who you are, Danny. When things get hard, you don't quit. You push through." "That's different," Danny said quietly. That was physical stuff. Soccer is." He struggled to articulate it. "There's talking and remembering things fast and being, I don't know, social. You think soccer is about being social." Mr. Harrison smiled slightly. "Soccer is about doing your job when it matters. About toughness when everyone's watching and when no one is. You've got that in you. I've seen it. But what if I mess up? What if I don't understand the formations? Or I say the wrong thing? Or then you'll mess up. So what?" Mr. Harrison leaned against the counter. He was quiet for a moment, then walked to a shelf and pulled down an old book, a history of World War II, worn and dog-eared. He opened it to a page he'd clearly marked long ago. "You know about Dunkirk?" he asked. "The evacuation? May 1940. The British Army trapped on the beaches. German Army closing in. Everyone thought it was over. 400,000 men about to be captured or killed." Mr. Harrison's voice was steady, matter-of-fact. The soldiers waiting on those beaches knew what was coming. They could hear the artillery getting closer, see the planes overhead. They were terrified. Most of them had never seen combat before. Young guys, not much older than you. Danny listened, not sure where this was going. And you know what they did? They stood. They formed lines, kept discipline, waited for boats that might never come. Can you imagine that? Standing in formation while bombs fall around you, knowing you might die in the next 5 minutes, but holding your position anyway. I don't. They were scared, Danny. Every single one of them. Probably wanted to run, to hide, to be anywhere but that beach. Their brains were screaming at them that this was death, this was the end. Mr. Harrison paused, but their bodies knew what to do. They'd been trained. So when the fear got loud, they just did the next thing. Stood in line, waited their turn, helped the guy next to them. Small acts of courage when grand heroics were impossible. He closed the book, set it on the counter between them. And you know what happened? The boats came. Hundreds of them. Military vessels, fishing boats, private yachts. And those scared soldiers got on the boats, got rescued, went home. Nearly 340,000 of them. They stood at Dunkirk when everything in them screamed to run. And that stand, that simple act of showing up in the face of terror, that's what saved them. Danny stared at the book. I don't understand what this has to do with soccer tryouts. You're standing on your own beach right now, Mr. Harrison said quietly. The fear is telling you to run. Your brain is listing all the ways you'll fail, all the reasons you don't belong. But Danny, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's standing in line anyway. It's doing the next thing even when you're terrified. He pulled something from his pocket, a small metal compass, the kind they'd used on navigation hikes. He said on top of the book, those soldiers at Dunkirk didn't need to understand everything. They didn't need to be fearless or perfect. They just needed to stand, to do their job, to trust that showing up was enough. He pushed the compass toward Danny. You've got that in you. I've seen it. The question is, will you stand, or will you let the fear win before you even try? Danny picked up the compass. It was warm from Mr. Harrison's pocket, solid and real in his palm. Just try out, Mr. Harrison said. That's all. Just show up. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stand. Monday arrived too fast and not fast enough. Danny stood outside the field house at 3:25, watching other guys filter in. They moved with confidence he couldn't imagine feeling. Loud, laughing, shoving each other. Already belonging. His hand found the compass in his pocket. The metal was cool, grounding. Just show up. Just stand. He walked through the door. The locker room was chaos. 60 guys changing, talking, music blasting from someone's phone. The noise hit Danny like a physical force. Too much, too fast, too many people in too small a space. His chest tightened. He found an empty corner, started changing with his back to everyone. Kept his eyes down. If he didn't make eye contact, maybe no one would notice him. Yo, who's the freshman? The voice cut through the noise. Danny's hands stilled on his cleats. Never seen him before. Looks like he's about to puke. Laughter. Not cruel, exactly, but not kind either. Just noticing. Danny's face burned. He forced himself to keep tying his cleats, fingers fumbling with laces that suddenly seemed impossibly complex. You're fine. You're fine. Just get through this. But his hands were shaking now, and of course people could see that. And why had he thought this was a good idea? He should leave. Make up an excuse. Say he was sick. All right, everyone out. Field in 2 minutes. A coach's voice booming over everything. If you're not out there, you're not trying out. The crowd moved as one, surging toward the door. Danny let himself get carried along, grateful to be anonymous in the mass of bodies. The field was huge and exposed under the August sun. No corners to hide in out here. Coach Hernandez stood at midfield with a clipboard and a whistle around his neck. He was compact and wiry, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog every player in seconds. Line up on the touchline. When I blow the whistle, sprint to the far side and back. I want to see speed. I want to see effort. I want to see who wants this. Danny lined up with 11 other guys. His heart hammered so hard he could hear it in his ears. The guy next to him was bouncing on his toes, loose and ready. Danny tried to copy him, felt ridiculous, stopped. The whistle blew. Danny ran. And finally, his body knew what to do. His legs pumped, arms driving, lungs pulling air. No thinking required. Just motion. Just effort. Just the pure physics of force and momentum. He crossed the line third. Not first, but solid. Respectable. For half a second, something like hope flickered in his chest. Then came the drills. Partner up, Coach Hernandez shouted. One-on-one. Attacker versus defender. Ball at the cone. The group fragmented into pairs with the fluid ease of people who understood social choreography. Danny stood still, watched everyone find partners, felt the familiar paralysis set in. Who was he supposed to ask? How did you ask? What were the words? Looks like you're with me, freshman. Danny turned. The guy was taller than him, lean and confident, with the easy posture of someone who'd never questioned whether he belonged anywhere. I'm Marcus, the guy said. You got a name? Danny. All right, Danny. You ever play before? Danny shook his head. Marcus grinned. Not friendly. This should be fun. The drill was simple. Attacker tried to dribble past the defender and shoot. Defender tried to win the ball. Marcus took the ball first. Danny positioned himself, trying to remember anything he'd seen about defending. Marcus took one touch forward, one step over, and blew past Danny like he wasn't there. Shot on goal. Better luck next time, freshman, Marcus said, already jogging back. They went again. Same result. And again. By the fifth rep, Danny's legs ached and his head was spinning, and Marcus was barely trying, just going through the motions against someone who clearly didn't matter. Switch. Now Danny had the ball. Now he had to attack. He took a heavy touch, pushed the ball forward, and Marcus stepped in, took it cleanly, was already dribbling away before Danny could react. Come on, Danny. Marcus's voice had an edge now, loud enough for others to hear. That all you got? They reset. Danny tried again. Same result. Seriously? You're not even trying. I am, Danny started, but his voice came out too quiet, disappeared under the whistle for the next rep. This time when Danny touched the ball, Marcus didn't just take it. He tackled hard, sent Danny sprawling. Danny landed on his tailbone, the impact jolting up his spine. Laughter from nearby. Not everyone, but enough. Danny stood up, dirt on his shorts, grass stains on his elbows. His eyes stung. His throat was tight. The edges of his vision felt fuzzy and distant. You don't belong here. Look at you. Everyone sees. Everyone knows. The thought wasn't just words. It was a certainty, heavy and absolute, settling over him like concrete. Next drill. Coach Hernandez's voice cut through. 3 versus 2, keep away. I want to see ball control and defensive pressure. Danny moved mechanically, found himself in a group with 4 other players. The drill was conceptually simple. 3 players tried to keep possession while 2 defended, working to win the ball back. Simple, except Coach was explaining positioning, where to stand, how to angle your body, when to press, when to hold, and the information arrived in fragments, pieces that wouldn't fit together into a coherent whole. The drill started and Danny ran, but he was in the wrong space, realized it too late, left a massive gap. Easy pass, through where he should have been. Hayes, that was his last name, but it took Danny a full second to realize Coach was yelling at him. What are you doing? Sorry, I thought that. Don't think. Just close the space. Again, they reset. Danny tried to remember which space was his. The information felt slippery, elusive, like trying to hold water. Left of his partner? No, right? Or was it? They started. He moved. Wrong position again. Hayes, off the field. Watch until you figure it out. Danny jogged to the sideline, face burning, hands shaking. He stood there, tried to watch, tried to understand the pattern. But everyone else just knew, moved with instinctive understanding while he stood there, trying to piece together rules that seemed obvious to everyone but him. The voice in his head was relentless now. See? You're not cut out for this. You're too slow, too stupid, too different. Just quit. Save yourself the embarrassment. His hand found the compass in his pocket. Just show up. Just stand. But standing wasn't enough when standing meant public failure. When standing meant confirming every fear he'd ever had about himself. The drill ended. Coach called everyone in. All right, that's day 1. If you're serious about this, I'll see you tomorrow. Same time. If you're not, save us both the trouble and don't come back. The group dispersed. Danny walked back to the locker room alone, keeping his head down, hoping to disappear into the crowd. Yo, Hayes. He turned. Marcus was there with two other guys, all of them still sweaty, still flushed from practice. You coming back tomorrow? Marcus asked. The question wasn't exactly mean, but it wasn't friendly either. Just testing, seeing if Danny was worth the effort of continued mockery. I don't know, Danny said honestly. Yeah, probably for the best, man. This probably isn't your thing. They walked away, and Danny couldn't even feel angry because they were right. This wasn't his thing. He'd tried. He'd failed. The story was over. He didn't go back Tuesday. On Wednesday, Mr. Harrison texted, "How's tryouts going?" Danny stared at the message for 5 minutes before typing. Didn't work out. The response came quickly. Did you quit or did they cut you? The question landed like a punch. Because the answer was neither. The answer was that Danny had cut himself, decided he didn't belong before anyone else had to tell him. I quit. Danny typed. 3 dots. Then, come by the shop after school. Danny went, mostly because refusing would require explanation and explanation required energy he didn't have. Mr. Harrison was doing inventory in the back, clipboard in hand, methodically counting stock. He didn't say anything when Danny walked in, just handed him a second clipboard. Help me count. They worked in silence for 20 minutes, the rhythm of it soothing. Count. Mark, move to the next shelf. Simple. Clear. No possibility of misunderstanding. Finally, Mr. Harrison spoke. You want to tell me what happened? And somehow, in the quiet of the stockroom with his eyes on the clipboard instead of on Mr. Harrison's face, Danny could. He told him about Marcus, about the wrong positions, about standing on the sideline while his brain moved too slow to keep up, about the certainty, bone deep and absolute, that he'd never belong there. I'm just not built for it, Danny finished. My brain doesn't work fast enough. I can't. I can't process things the way they do. So you're a step behind mentally, Mr. Harrison said. Okay, what are you a step ahead in? Danny blinked. What? You're slow to process instructions. Fine. What are you fast at? What do you do better than them? Nothing. Bull. Mr. Harrison's voice was sharp now, cutting through Danny's spiral. You know what those soldiers at Dunkirk had that saved them? It wasn't quick thinking. Most of them were too terrified to think. It was something simpler, the ability to keep moving when their minds were screaming at them to freeze. To do the next thing even when they didn't understand the big picture. He set down his clipboard. In practice, maybe you need time to understand tactics and formations. But in a game, when the ball is moving and everything is chaos, there's no time to think. You just react. And that's where guys like you shine, when thinking stops and instinct takes over. But I already quit, Danny said quietly. So unquit. Go back tomorrow. One more day. And this time, stop trying to understand everything. Just find the ball and get to it. That's all soccer is at its core, getting to the ball before the other guy does. Your body knows how to do that. Stop letting your brain get in the way. Danny wanted to believe him. But belief required evidence, and all his evidence pointed the other direction. Mr. Harrison pulled out the old World War II book again, opened it to the same page about Dunkirk. You know what these soldiers didn't have? Perfect understanding of the situation. Perfect plans. Perfect confidence. You know what they did have? The courage to stand even when they were terrified. To do their job even when they didn't understand the big picture. He looked at Danny directly. That's all I'm asking. Stand on that field one more time. Don't run. Don't let fear make this decision for you. Thursday afternoon, Danny stood outside the field house again. His stomach was churning. His hands were sweating. Every part of him screamed to turn around, go home, stop making himself a target. But he walked through the door. The locker room noise was just as overwhelming. His heart hammered just as hard. But he changed quickly, kept his head down, and when Marcus called out freshman's back, Danny forced himself to nod, a tiny acknowledgement that he'd heard. Persistent, I'll give you that, Marcus said, not entirely unkindly. Practice started with conditioning. Sprints, shuttle runs, endurance work. Here, Danny could compete. His body didn't care about social dynamics or processing speed. It just worked. He finished in the top 10 on every run. Then came the drills. This time, it was small-sided games, 4 versus 4 on a reduced field. Coach split them into groups, assigned positions. Danny ended up as a defender, tasked with stopping attackers and winning the ball back. Simple concept. But when coach started explaining the defensive shape, who covers what space, when to press, when to drop off, how to communicate, the information came too fast. Danny tried to hold on to it, felt it slipping away even as he nodded along. The game started. Immediately, Danny was lost. The ball moved, players shifted, and he couldn't track it all. Where is he supposed to be? Should he press the ball or hold position? Was that his mark or? An attacker blew past him. Easy goal. Coach's whistle. Hayes, you're ball watching. Stay with your mark. They reset. Danny tried to watch his assigned player, but the ball was moving and his instinct was to follow it. Another goal. Hayes, defensive shape. Hold your position. The frustration built in his chest like pressure. His brain kept trying to remember the instructions. Press or drop or mark or shape or, and in the time it took to think about it, the play was already over. You're too slow. Can't you see? Everyone else understands. Just you standing there like an idiot. Hayes, stop thinking. Coach Hernandez was suddenly right there, pulling him aside. I can see your brain working. Stop it. Forget the shape, forget the tactics. Just see the ball and get to it. That's it. No thinking. Just move. Danny nodded, throat too tight to speak. They reset. Danny lined up, tried to quiet the chatter in his head. Ball moved. He saw it, not the shape, not the tactics, just the ball. A simple object moving through space. He ran toward it. The attacker received it, took a touch. Danny closed the distance, didn't think about technique, just threw himself into the challenge. And won the ball. Clean tackle, ball at his feet. There! Coach's voice boomed. That's what I want. That's a defender. Again. They played again. Danny ignored the voices in his head, trying to remember positions and shapes. Just watch the ball. When it moved, he moved. When someone had it, he closed them down. He won the ball 3 more times in 5 minutes. Not perfectly, not technically clean, but effective, disruptive, making plays through pure will and effort. Good, Hayes. That's the energy I need. Coach called. By the end of the session, something was shifting. Danny's body was learning the rhythm of it. Where to be, how to tackle, when to press. Not because he'd memorized the tactics, but because his body was storing it in muscle memory where thoughts couldn't slow it down. Scrimmage. Coach called. Full field. Let's see what we've got. They split into 2 teams. Danny was assigned to play outside back, a defender responsible for the entire left side of the field. Marcus was on the opposing team, playing as a winger directly against him. This was it. Direct competition against the guy who'd beaten him in every drill on day 1. The whistle blew to start. Marcus immediately got the ball, started dribbling down Danny's side. Danny backpedaled, watching the ball, feeling the rhythm of Marcus's touches. Marcus cut inside. Danny stayed with him, close, not diving in but maintaining pressure. Marcus tried to accelerate past him. Danny turned his hips, stayed stride for stride. Marcus shot. Danny threw his body in the way, the ball ricocheting off his shin for a throw-in. Good recovery, Hayes. Coach called. They played for 20 minutes. Marcus tested him again and again. Sometimes Danny held him. Sometimes Marcus got past. But Danny never stopped moving, never stopped fighting for the ball, never let his brain slow him down with overthinking. Midway through, Marcus received a pass deep in Danny's defensive third. Dangerous position. Danny closed him down, forced him wide away from goal. Marcus tried to cut back inside. Danny read it. Not thought, just felt it, and stepped in with a perfectly timed tackle. Won the ball clean. He cleared upfield. Marcus looked at him with something like surprise. They kept playing. Near the end, another attack came down Danny's side. A different winger this time, fresh legs, fast. He received the ball with space, started running at Danny. Danny dropped off, maintaining the gap, forcing the winger to make a decision. The winger tried to go outside. Danny cut off the angle, stayed in front. The winger hesitated. Danny saw it. That microsecond of uncertainty and pounced. Won the ball. Cleared it. Coach's whistle blew to end the scrimmage. Hayes. Coach called him over. Danny jogged across, heart pounding. You know what I saw from you today? Danny shook his head. Fight. You didn't always get it right, but you never stopped competing. You threw your body in front of shots. You made tackles. You made attackers work for everything. He clapped Danny's shoulder. That's what I need from my defenders. Not perfection, just effort and guts. Danny nodded, couldn't trust himself to speak. Marcus jogged past, heading for water. He paused next to Danny. Good defending, he said simply, then grinned. You actually made me work today. It was small, just 3 words, but they landed like a revelation. Proof that Danny wasn't imaginary, that his effort had registered, that he'd made a player like Marcus notice him. Friday's practice was more of the same. Position drills, small-sided games, scrimmages. Danny was still behind on understanding complex tactics, still struggled when coach rapid-fire instructions about defensive shape and coverage. But when the ball was in play, when thinking stopped and instinct took over, he could compete. He won more tackles than he lost, threw himself in front of more shots, made attackers frustrated with his relentless pressure. One moment stood out. A scrimmage, close game, 5 minutes left. An attacker broke through midfield with the ball, heading straight for Danny in a one-on-one situation. Score, and the attacking team would win. Danny backpedaled, watching the ball. The attacker was quick, skilled, confident. Every instinct in Danny's head screamed uncertainty. What if you miss the tackle? What if you get beat? What if you fail? But his body knew what to do. He stayed patient. Let the attacker come to him. Watch for the moment when the ball got too far from the attacker's foot. There, Danny lunged in, won the ball with a perfectly timed slide tackle. The attacker went down. The ball squirted free. Danny recovered it, cleared upfield. His teammates erupted, cheering, clapping. Someone slapped his back. Coach Hernandez was nodding from the sideline, a slight smile on his face. Danny stood up, dirt on his jersey, lungs burning. And for the first time all week, he felt something other than fear. He felt like he belonged. The weekend was quiet agony. Danny couldn't tell if tryouts had gone well or poorly. He made plays, yes, but he'd also messed up drills, been pulled aside for corrections, struggled with verbal instructions. The gap between his best moments and his worst felt insurmountable. His phone buzzed Saturday morning. Mr. Harrison, how'd the rest of the week go? Danny typed and retyped his response 5 times before settling on. Made some plays. Still feel lost half the time. But you showed up. You stood. Yeah, that's what matters. Proud of you. Danny stared at those 3 words, proud of you, and felt something crack open in his chest. Because no one had ever said that about his struggling, his showing up despite fear. Praise always came for success, for achievement, for getting it right. But Mr. Harrison was proud of him for just trying, for being scared and doing it anyway, for making his stand at Dunkirk. Monday morning, the roster was posted outside the athletic office. Danny stood in the hallway with 20 other guys, all of them pushing forward to see if their names were there. He stayed on the edge of the group, unable to make himself look. Because if his name wasn't there, it would confirm everything he'd always believed about himself. And if it was there, yo, Danny, he turned. Marcus was jogging down the hallway, grinning. You made it, man. You're on the list. JV squad. Danny's brain stalled out entirely. What? Check for yourself. Marcus clapped his shoulder as he passed. Told you yesterday. You made me work. Coach noticed. Danny finally pushed through the crowd to the posted sheet. Scanned down the list of names. And there, halfway down the JV roster, Hayes Daniel. Defender, he stared at it until the letters blurred. His name. On the team. Belonging. His hand found the compass in his pocket. He pulled it out, looked at the steady needle pointing true north despite the chaos around it. You just needed to stand, to do your job, to trust that showing up was enough. He'd shown up, scared, uncertain, convinced he'd fail, but he'd shown up. And somehow, that had been enough. The first practice as an official team member was Wednesday. Danny walked into the locker room and found his space, a locker with his last name taped above it. Physical proof that he existed here, that he had a place. He changed quietly, still not fully comfortable with the noise and chaos. Probably never would be, but that was okay. He didn't need to be the loudest or the most social or the one everyone gravitated to. He just needed to do his job. At practice, Coach Hernandez split them into position groups. Danny joined the defenders, 6 guys total, ranging from seniors to freshmen. The senior captain, a guy named Jordan, looked them over with the assessing gaze of someone who'd been here before. All right, listen up. Coach is going to teach you tactics, positioning, defensive shape. Some of you are going to pick it up fast. His eyes landed on Danny for a brief moment. Some of you are going to need to learn by doing. That's fine. What matters is when the ball is in play, you fight. You compete. You make attackers earn everything. That's what makes a good defender. They ran through drills. Positioning, marking, timing tackles. Coach demonstrated each principle once, then had them practice. Danny struggled to retain the verbal instructions. Too many concepts, too much information coming too fast. But when he watched Coach physically demonstrate, when he could see the movement rather than just hear the explanation, something clicked. His body could learn what his brain couldn't process in real time. They moved to live play. First team offense versus the defenders. Danny lined up against Marcus, who'd made the team as a winger. Ball moved to Marcus. He took a touch, started his attack. Danny dropped off, maintained his cushion, watched the ball. Marcus tried to go outside. Danny cut him off. Marcus stopped, tried to go inside. Danny stayed in front. Marcus tried to step over, a quick acceleration. Danny stayed stride for stride, forced him wide, away from danger. Finally, Marcus passed the ball backwards, recycled possession. No penetration. No shot. Good haze. Coach called. That's textbook defending. They ran it 15 more times. Danny didn't win every rep. Marcus was skilled and fast, got past him several times. But Danny made him work for it every single time. Made him earn every touch, every yard, every moment. After practice, Marcus sat down next to him in the locker room. You know what's funny? Marcus said, "First day of tryouts, I thought you were going to quit after I beat you in that first drill." "I almost did," Danny admitted. "Yeah, well, glad you didn't." Marcus grabbed his bag. "You're going to be a problem for wingers, man. You got that thing, that relentless thing. You never stop coming." He left. Danny sat there for a moment longer, letting the words settle. You never stop coming. That was his strength. Not processing speed, not social fluency, not understanding complex tactics in real time. Just a simple, stubborn refusal to quit. The ability to show up scared and do it anyway. His phone buzzed. "Mr. Harrison, how was practice?" Danny typed back, "I'm on the team." 3 dots. Then, "You made your stand. Now the real work begins." Danny smiled, grabbed his bag, headed for the door. Outside, the late afternoon sun was golden and warm. The field stretched out empty and perfect, waiting for the season ahead, for all the moments when Danny would mark his player and win tackles and do the thing his body knew how to do even when his brain couldn't keep up. He wasn't the loudest or the fastest or the most naturally talented, but he was there. He had stood at his Dunkirk. And for the first time in his life, that felt like enough. 3 weeks later, the JV team's first match was against Lincoln High. Danny stood on the sideline, suited up, heart hammering as Coach went through the defensive plan. They got a fast winger on the right side. Coach said, "Number 7. He scored in every match this season. Hayes." He looked directly at Danny. "He's yours. This is your test. Go make him work." Danny jogged onto the field with the starting 11. Lined up at left back, the opposing winger directly across from him. Number 7 looked confident, loose, and ready. The whistle blew to start. Within the first minute, the ball came to number 7. He took it, immediately attacked Danny's side. Fast, controlled touches. Danny backpedaled, stayed in front, forced him wide. Number 7 cut inside. Shot. Danny threw his leg out, blocked it. Corner kick. Good block, Hayes. Jordan called from center back. The match continued. Number 7 tested him again and again. Sometimes Danny held him. Sometimes he got beat. But Danny never stopped fighting, never let him run free, never gave him easy space. 20 minutes in, number 7 received the ball deep in Danny's defensive third. Dangerous position. 1-on-1. The Lincoln fans were screaming. Danny dropped off, watching the ball. Number 7 was skilled, step over, body feint, looking for the angle to shoot. Danny stayed patient. Didn't dive in, just maintained pressure, stayed in front. Number 7 tried to go outside. Danny cut off the angle. Number 7 stopped, Try to go inside. Danny was there. Frustrated, number 7 tried to force it. Took a heavy touch, trying to get around Danny. The ball ran too far from his foot. Danny saw it. Stepped in. Won the ball clean. He cleared it upfield. The crowd on his side erupted. Number 7 looked at him with something like respect. They played 80 minutes. Number 7 never scored. Barely got shot off. By the fourth quarter, he'd stopped attacking Danny's side entirely, looking for easier options elsewhere. After the match, they'd won 2-0, clean sheet. Jordan found Danny by the bench. First game, and you shut down their best player. Not bad, freshman. Thanks, Danny managed. You know what coach said about you? Jordan grinned. Said you play like you're fighting for your life. Like giving up isn't an option. That's the highest compliment he gives. Danny nodded, couldn't trust himself to speak. Inside, something was settling into place. Not confidence exactly. He still struggled with complex tactics, still felt lost in social situations, still processed verbal information slower than everyone around him. But on the field, when the ball was in play, his body knew what to do. And somehow, that had become enough. That night, Danny sat at his desk, the compass from Mr. Harrison in his palm. The needle pointed north, steady and true, regardless of the chaos around it. He thought about Dunkirk, about soldiers standing in formation while bombs fell, about ordinary people finding courage when heroics were impossible, about making your stand when everything in you screamed to run. He thought about that first day of tryouts, the fear, the certainty that he didn't belong, the voice in his head listing all the reasons he should quit. But he'd stood anyway. And in standing, in showing up scared and doing it anyway, he'd found something stronger than confidence. He'd found proof that he could face his fear and not be destroyed by it. Danny set the compass on his desk, pointed north. Tomorrow there will be practice. More tactics to learn, more moments of confusion, more gaps between his processing speed and everyone else's. But there would also be the whistle to start play. The ball moving across grass. The pure physical truth of competition. And in those moments, he wouldn't be too slow or too different or too anything. He would just be a defender doing his job. A kid who made his stand at Dunkirk. A kid who belonged.